Hi, I'm Amanda Morgan from NotJustCute.com, and First Friday Q&A is back. For today's question, I'm actually going to my dad, who asked me a question recently, and I thought this is a question that needs to enter more of our common discussion today. He asked, what's the deal with public preschool? He said, I remember back when all the talk and all the pressure was about getting public kindergarten, making sure kindergarten was available to everyone, and now the hot topic is preschool. So what's the deal? How far is this going to go, and is it really necessary? So here's my answer to my dad and to everyone who has an interest here. So there are plenty of studies that back up the benefits of preschool. That includes a Nobel laureate in economics who estimated that the return on investment for preschool is $7 to $8 for every $1 invested. Now that number can be debated back and forth because it's estimating things in the future that we end up not paying for. So future services through the public school system that are no longer necessary because of the early intervention that was given in preschool, all the way up through costs to incarcerate people because we find that crime rates are lower for children who attend a high quality preschool. So they estimate this number of how much money is saved if we put our effort and our investment on the front end at preschool, that we can save money in the long run as we have children who are better contributors to society, or who are able to function better, or who are able to produce more. So from an economic standpoint, there's studies to suggest that the investment is a wise one. From the standpoint of what it does for children, there are also plenty of studies that show that children will that are in a high quality preschool situation end up having better outcomes beyond just the cognitive and academic benefits, but also through social benefits in being more productive members of society, getting along better with others, being happier in their lives, and as I mentioned, on through not having as high of crime rates or incarceration levels. So there's plenty of studies, and you're probably hearing lots of references to these return on investment or better outcomes for children as people are promoting public preschool programs. We hear these sound bites, these talking points about what the benefits of preschool are. We also know through some of these details in these studies that those who benefit most, who have these largest margins of improvement from preschool programs, are generally those from lower socioeconomic levels. And so we know that the benefits of preschool are greatest for those who are least likely to be able to afford it in a private setting. So that's one of the reasons that I personally support fiscally responsible ways of providing public preschool, because the benefits for those who need it the most, those benefits are largest for those who need it the most and who can afford it the least. At the same time, I have people that say, well, then should everyone go to preschool? Should it be compulsory? And I would hesitate to say yes on that one, because there are some children in situations where they may not need a preschool setting, where they get all those benefits in other ways. And I think that families should be allowed to make those decisions. But I do think, again, that we can find fiscally responsible ways for public preschool to be offered for those who need it most and can afford it the least. However, there's a caveat that I think needs to be considered and that I worry about most when I hear public preschool discussed at large. As I mentioned, many of you have probably heard these talking points about the benefits and the return on investment. All of these things have become hot talking points as to why we need to be able to promote and provide early preschool programs for young children. However, we have to recognize where these talking points, where these data points have come from. So largely when people reference all of these great outcomes for young children in preschool programs, they come from 3 gold standard preschool programs that are studied widely in the area of child development or early childhood education. And those are the High Scope Perry Preschool Project, the Abecedarian Project, and the Chicago Child Parent Project. And these 3 preschool programs were developed and studied in really scientific ways. They were very controlled as far as you can in a preschool situation in the 60s through the 80s. And so these were studied very carefully and very scientifically. And that's where we get so much of this information as to the benefits of preschool programs and these what has become talking points now for public preschool programs. So my concern is that when we hear these talking points and we sell everyone on the idea of preschool, I want to make sure that we are following up by implementing preschool programs that follow these gold standard preschool programs. Each of these programs, where the data comes from, were developmentally appropriate programs They recognize the importance of the individual learner in making authentic learning experiences. They had strong parent education components, which is also important. And they focused on whole child development and not just academic rigor. So I think it's important for us to make sure that as we implement these public preschool programs, if we want those outcomes that came from that data and that research, we need to make sure that we are implementing programs that carry those same standards for developmentally appropriate practice and for highly qualified teachers. Otherwise, I worry that we are going to be selling the idea of preschool and hanging up signs that say preschool, but implementing something completely different and then wondering why we're not getting the same benefits from it. As I've said before, that you can have a chocolate pie and a mud pie, but just because they have the word pie in it doesn't mean they're going to taste the same. Just because we put the word preschool on a sign and put a bunch of children in one room doesn't mean we're going to have the same benefits than we would if we actually implemented the standards from these gold standard preschool programs that have been studied and that have given us these talking points. So that's my concern. That's what I think needs to be taken into consideration as we implement preschool. Yes, I think it's important to give all children the opportunity and the families the opportunity to choose a high quality preschool program for their children. But I do think we need to be aware that the devil's in the details. Make sure that these preschool programs are actually high quality preschool programs and not just another opportunity for push down curriculum to make its way down into the earlier years. So that is my answer to the question. Thanks, Dad, for coming up with such a great one. If you have a question that you'd like to have answered here on Not Just Cute's First Friday Q&A, you can send that to me at amanda@notjustcute.com. I'd love to hear what's on your mind. Thank you for reading, watching, and listening, and I'll catch you next time.